In the early 1700s, 13 American colonies were scattered along the Atlantic coast, under British rule, each with its own local governance, but all ultimately controlled by the Crown. Life in the colonies was a mix of agriculture, trade, and small towns. Colonists enjoyed some freedoms, but had limited political power. Britain controlled trade, taxation, and laws, ensuring the colonies benefited the empire economically. Royal governors enforced these rules locally. The 7 Years' War ended in 1763, leaving Britain with massive debt and a need to tax its colonies to recover costs. The Stamp Act of 1765 taxed all printed materials, angering colonists who had no representation in Parliament. The slogan, "No taxation without representation," became a rallying cry, symbolizing the colony's growing desire for self-governance. Britain introduced additional taxes on imported goods like glass, paint, and tea, intensifying colonial resentment. Anger spread across towns and cities as colonists saw these acts as exploitation, undermining their freedom and rights. In 1770, British soldiers fired into a crowd, killing 5 colonists. The Boston Massacre shocked the colonies. Newspapers and pamphlets spread the story, fueling anti-British sentiment and uniting colonists in outrage. In 1773, the Tea Act allowed the British East India Company to sell tea cheaply, undercutting local merchants, sparking outrage. Colonists disguised as Native Americans boarded ships and dumped tea into Boston Harbor as a protest against British control. Britain responded with harsh measures, closing Boston Harbor, limiting town meetings, and expanding royal authority. These measures united the colonies. Leaders called the First Continental Congress in 1774 to plan collective action. The Congress issued a declaration, asserting the colonies' rights and organized a boycott of British goods. Militias across the colonies began preparing for conflict, stockpiling weapons and training men. In April 1775, British troops marched to seize colonial weapons. Skirmishes at Lexington and Concord ignited the Revolutionary War. The Continental Army, led by George Washington, faced shortages, poor training, and harsh winter conditions. Colonists used unconventional tactics, striking where the British least expected, using local terrain to their advantage. In 1776, Thomas Jefferson and other leaders drafted the Declaration of Independence, a document asserting liberty and rights. On July 4, 1776, the colonies formally declared independence, marking the birth of a new nation. The Declaration stated that all men are created equal, endowed with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The war continued with victories and defeats on both sides, testing the resilience of the fledgling nation. Soldiers suffered at Valley Forge, enduring extreme cold, hunger, and disease, yet perseverance kept the revolution alive. France, motivated by rivalry with Britain, provided money, troops, and weapons crucial to American success. Other nations, including Spain and the Netherlands, offered financial and military support, turning the conflict into an international struggle. Colonists achieved key victories, boosting morale and encouraging continued resistance. In 1781, American and French troops surrounded British forces at Yorktown, cutting off supplies and escape. After weeks of siege, British General Cornwallis surrendered, marking the effective end of major fighting. Negotiations continued, and in 1783, the Treaty of Paris officially recognized American independence. The treaty set new borders, giving the United States territory from the Atlantic coast to the Mississippi River. The new nation initially governed under the Articles of Confederation, but weaknesses soon became clear. Problems such as weak central authority and financial instability led to the 1787 Constitutional Convention. The Constitution established a strong federal government while protecting states' rights and individual freedoms. The Bill of Rights, ratified in 1791, guaranteed freedoms like speech, religion, and due process. The early United States faced immense challenges, uniting diverse colonies, creating laws, and establishing international credibility. Revolutionary ideals inspired movements for liberty and equality, influencing social and political thought. America's independence inspired revolutions abroad, including the French Revolution and Latin American independence movements. Leaders like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin shaped the revolution through vision and leadership. Ordinary soldiers and civilians endured hardships, making great sacrifices for the cause of liberty. Women supported the war effort, managing farms, businesses, and even acting as spies or messengers. African Americans participated in the struggle, some fighting for the promise of freedom, others navigating complex social restrictions. Native Americans faced displacement and conflict, caught between British and colonial forces. The war disrupted trade and agriculture, creating shortages, inflation, and financial stress. Despite hardships, patriotism and belief in freedom kept the colonies united and motivated. Key victories lifted spirits, demonstrating that determination and strategic planning could overcome adversity. The United States emerged as an independent country, founded on principles of liberty, equality, and self-governance. The revolution established a framework for democracy, influencing how future governments approached rights and governance. America's independence had a lasting impact, inspiring freedom movements and democratic ideals worldwide. The story of America's birth is one of courage, resilience, and vision, a reminder that freedom requires sacrifice and determination.